glad to take a few of your questions. Jonathan.
Is the president serious about working with Democrats going forward after what happened with healthcare?
Absolutely. In fact, starting Friday afternoon through late yesterday, he's received a number of calls, as well as other members of the senior staff that had been working on healthcare, from members of both sides, saying that they would like to work together, offer up ideas, and had suggestions about how to come to resolution on this and get to a House vote on this.
But wouldn't this require a...
Sorry, this isn't a free-for-all. Jonathan's asking a question.
But wouldn't this require a serious course correction for the White House? I mean, the president's branded Chuck Schumer a clown, worked entirely with Republicans on this bill. Wouldn't this require a serious change of course for the president?
To some degree, sure. And I think the president talked about that. I think we learned a lot through this process. I think we're obviously looking at ways that we can improve not only how we handle healthcare, but other things, how we do everything. And I've mentioned it to some of you in the course of things. I think, one of the traits of a successful organization is to always examine how you do things. But I think that there's...
Thank you. Historically, since healthcare has beguiled many presidents, all the way back to Harry Truman, and certainly when Hillary Clinton came to Washington, she went to the Hill and thought that she could get it done. I'm sure there are many lessons you can learn from previous presidents and perhaps previous first ladies. Has the president thought of ever reaching out to Hillary and finding out, how she maneuvered and some of the best practices or some of the pitfalls that she's come into?
Well, and I think that he's met with Dr. Zeke Emanuel and others. It's not been he has reached out to several people throughout this process to gauge both their policy ideas and strategy ideas. And I think, the president noted on Friday afternoon that we learned a lot on several fronts about strategically how to handle this, as well as some of the members that we thought we would have with us, and we're re-examining that on a variety of bases. Margaret.
You have to be cleared on.
No, not necessarily. I don't know that members of Congress need to be cleared.
But wouldn't the White House want to know?
Again, I think there's a difference. He's doing a review, and it's not something that we're going to necessarily get in the middle of or get in the way of. It's part of it is to let him review and have conversations and look at things that he thinks are relevant.
Does the White House believe that he can still lead an impartial investigation, or would the administration support some of these calls now for an independent committee to investigate this?
First of all, I would question what this is, because as I've mentioned countless times from this podium, there's two issues at hand. There's multiple. There's, number one, there's any action with respect to Russia itself, and every single person that's been briefed by Director Comey in particular and the FBI has said there's nothing there. What he is looking into are two things that we are aware of because of the pleas that we have made. One is the leaks of classified and other information that have come out, and two is whether or not there has been people that have been unmasked and whether or not there's surveillance. I don't know why we stand by the original request that was made, and I think Director Comey in open testimony the other day talked about what the FBI is looking into. So I think we, have a lot of people looking into this whole situation.
Will the White House pursue a leak investigation into whoever is giving Chairman Nunes this information, if it's in the executive branch?
It's not. I think there's a difference between a leak and someone pursuing a review of a situation that they have determined. There's a difference between a leak, someone leaking out to reporters for nefarious. To take classified information and share it with people who aren't cleared. Chairman Nunes is cleared. He is the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Someone who is cleared to share classified information with somebody else cleared is not a leak.
Follow up a little bit on Chairman Nunes, and I have a question about Jared in a second. So, yes, members of Congress may not need to be cleared in, but to get access to a SCIF, I do believe that requires some cooperation from the executive branch, because there are intelligence places on Capitol Hill that are secure that this meeting could have taken place. So it creates the impression that Chairman Nunes came over here and with some degree of cooperation with this White House was able to carry out this meeting and then make the announcement that he did, which is perceived by some, most of them Democrats, I'll grant you that it was trying to be helpful to this president and this administration. So it appears there was some degree of cooperation in this process that the White House granted Chairman Nunes, making it not just an investigative action, but a cooperative one.
Right. So I would refer you to two things. Number one, we've asked both of these entities, both the House and the Senate Intelligence Committees, to undertake this review. So it is partially at our request that they're looking into this. Number two, based on the public comments that he made to Margaret's organization, he has said, from my understanding on the record, that he did not meet with White House staff. So again, I think you're trying to make something that he has himself, from what I've read, not actually been the case. Jared served as the official primary point of contact with foreign governments and officials until we had State Department officials up once we assumed.
Request.
That's correct. And so given this role, he volunteered to speak with Chairman Burr's committee, but has not received any confirmation regarding a time for a meeting or anything.
Is this going to be a private meeting, or is this going to be?
I don't know. He
what
was
is he
at.
trying to accomplish with that?
I think based on the questions that surround this, he volunteered to go in and sit down with them and say, "Hey, I'm glad to talk about the role that I played and the individuals I met with." But again, remember, given the role that he played both during the campaign and during the transition, he met with countless individuals. That was part of his job. That was part of his role, and he executed it completely as he was supposed to.
And so he doesn't believe he owes the American public an explanation
For
about
what?
this.
Doing his job?
I'm just
Meeting
asking.
with? But you're acting as though there's something nefarious about doing what he was actually tasked to
It's
do.
not every day that someone in a senior position like Jared's volunteers to go talk to the Senate Intelligence
No.
Committee about an investigation
because of the-
dealing with meddling by a foreign power.
Right,
in the
and I
American
think based on
election.
the media frenzy around this, and I'm answering it. And I'm just saying to you that based on the media frenzy that existed around this, he volunteered to make sure that he said, "Hey, we've made some contacts. I'd be glad to explain them. Let me know if you'd like to talk." Plain and simple.
Documents that Chairman Nunes saw here at the White House complex were described by his office as being executive branch documents. In the early days after the president sent out that tweet, the White House was digging around for anything to corroborate what the president had tweeted out. Why did it take the Intelligence Committee chairman coming here to the White House to view executive branch documents to uncover this information? Why couldn't the White House have uncovered it?
Well, as I mentioned, I think to Margaret, I'm not going to. I will stick to what the chairman has said publicly, and my understanding from his public comments are that there are certain systems that he doesn't have access to. That was his explanation, and I'm going to. I think you should follow up with him on that.
Did the White House ever search the same documents that the chairman searched?
I don't know what he found, so therefore it would be hard to say, to make an assessment of what he was briefed on and what we know. So that's a really hard question to answer at this point.
Is it possible that these documents were merely surveillance reports that were
I'm not
garnered?
going to get into hypotheticals, John. I don't know what he found, and to start to say what's possible, what's not, I don't know.
Well, let me just finish if I could. Is it possible that these were surveillance reports from security clearances that were collected after people had filled out standard Form 86?
I don't know. I don't know what I honestly don't know what he's got on his systems and what the intel community has on theirs that he wouldn't have access to. So I don't know what he would have had access to already.
Is there any particular reason why the White House would not be opposed to the idea of Jared Kushner testifying under oath before that committee?
Again, Jared volunteered to meet with the committee. They haven't even confirmed having a meeting yet, so to get ahead of what they've even asked for would be a little silly.
Send, in the White House's view, a dangerous precedent in having a senior aide to the president going up. Ordinarily, we see sometimes the White House invoking executive privilege. Why haven't you done this in this particular case?
Because I think Jared did a job during the transition in the campaign where he was a conduit and to leaders, and that's until we had a State Department of functioning place for people to go. Remember, we had a delay in some of these things, and that was his role. And he wants to make sure that he's very clear about the role that he played, who he talked to, and that's it, Jim.
Is Obamacare repealed dead?
I don't think it's dead.
Is Obamacare repealed dead?
I don't think it's dead. In the sense,
It have to be dead if you're going to have Democrats working with you. To,
why? No,
to
no,
address
I don't know that that's true because I think
Care
it's
Act. Why would they work
because
with you?
it's dying.
You're still trying to repeal it.
Because I think part of it is there's a recognition that it is failing. It's dying on its own. It will be dead soon.
Democrats say it's not dying.
Okay, well then a lot of Democrats need to get
There
more
are
money.
repairs that
because
need to be made, they say, but
I
to
understand
kill the
that,
whole
but
thing might
I
not
understand
be
what they want.
the route they
but
want to go.
I think there's a difference. I think that we recognize that premiums continue to go sky high. Deductibles are going sky high. Choices are going down. By Leader Pelosi's own metric, this is dying. She's the one who crafted the metric. She said that there was a three-pronged system determining its success. It is an abysmal failure. If they want to come back to the table and recognize how we can do it in a more responsible way to achieve the goals that Obamacare set out to do, but do so in a way that's going to do the opposite of what Obamacare actually did, which is to increase choice, drive down cost, we're willing to have that discussion. But right now, and I again,
They
remember,
say repeal has to be
right,
put to the side.
but Jim, one of the things that I mentioned, I just want to be clear on this, is we have to figure out how we get to 216, 218, depending on where the number is that given day. That doesn't mean we need the entire Democratic caucus. That means we need some responsible Democrats who want to sit down and have a discussion about how to do that. And I think that there may be enough of them that are willing to do that. But I understand where the Democratic leadership is, and that's one thing. I mean, they continue to stake out a very, very far left position. That's not where all their members are. And I think that we can, based on the calls that have come in over the last 50, 60 hours, I think that there might be some room to have a conversation with people who want to engage in a constructive conversation on how to move forward. And so let's see how that evolves. I don't know that we're ready to jump into this today, but I think as the calls come forward, the president's view is if you all want to get together and start coming to a way that we can come to resolution, we're willing to listen. But right now, we've got an agenda to continue to
There might
pursue.
be a middle ground there, you think?
I'm not going to jump ahead, but I will say that we believe that there is something that could still be done at some point. And I think the further along we go, where premiums continue to go up, more and more people will be drawn into this discussion because there's going to be a continued cry from people in terms of the impact that it's having on their pocketbook and on their ability to see people that a doctor of their choice or a plan that's just not seating them anymore. April.
Real quick follow-up on Chairman Nunes. Do you reject that there's any kind of perception problem whatsoever in having the chairman over here the day before he comes out publicly and says, by the way, there's this information that's helpful to the president?
I think the chairman's made very clear through his public comments what his goal was, and I think anyone who wants to, I mean, you can't ask someone to do a review of the situation and then sort of create inferences that because they're reviewing a situation that there's something that's not right about that. He is reviewing the situation. He did exactly what, and I think he's been fairly open with the press as far as what he was doing, who he spoke to, and why. And I think from our standpoint, that's what we had asked to do.
On several topics. One,
Shocker.
don't be. You heard the question that I lobbed at the Attorney General about the hate crime that happened in New York. The white supremacist who went to New York and targeted a black man. Hate crimes are on the rise. What do you say? What is this White House saying about this obvious, apparent hate crime?
I'm not gonna. I mean, you yelled at the Attorney General a specific case, if I'm not correct.
In the past to talk about this, and you've talked about issues of
Right,
hate
and
crimes.
I'm glad to talk about the issue. I just want to be very clear
Uh-huh.
that I am not going to reference any specific case before the DOJ right now. I will say that the president has recognized that we need to bring the country together. He wants to unite this country. He wants to bring people together. He had a very long conversation with respect to race in itself, which I think is somewhat, if I'm not correct in your question. There, okay, I just want to be clear. Thank you. And I think that was one of the topics that he talked about with the CBC. Some of the issues with respect to crime and education and some of the solutions that they suggested that could be done during their meeting. And I think those are the kind of things that I think we can continue that conversation.
Hey, Sean, unfortunately, there's been a rise in hate crimes when it comes to different groups, to include anti-Semitic crimes.
Yeah, and
but you've commented from that podium. This is clear. This gentleman in his jailhouse gave a statement to a reporter talking about he wishes the man were younger and he was a thug that he killed. So what do you say to this? This is clear. It's racism at its utmost.
Yeah. Two issues. Number one, I think hate crimes, anti-Semitic crimes of any nature should be called out in the most reprehensible way. There is no room for that in our country, and I think the president noted that in the joint address, that there is one issue that, despite policy, should unite us, and that is calling out hate, that is calling out divisiveness based on the color of one's skin, one's religion, one's gender. The president's been very clear on that, and he's called it out before. He's, with respect to certain particular situations, he made it very clear at the opening of his joint address. That's what he led with, is a call to denounce hate no matter where we come from politically. He's also talked about it the night that he took the stage on that Wednesday morning around 2:40 a.m. about how one of the things that he needed to do and wanted to do as president was unite all Americans. But I think that there's one other piece to this, April, that I just want to be clear on. While we unequivocally, no question about it, need to call out hate, anti-Semitism where it exists, there is another thing that we have to do. And in your case in particular, while I don't know all of the details and I don't want to reference any specific case, but I think we saw this the other day with some of the anti-Semitic behavior that was going out with respect to people of the Jewish faith, is that we saw these threats coming into Jewish community centers, and there was an immediate jump to criticize folks on the right and to denounce people on the right and ask them to condemn them. And it turns out that, in fact, it wasn't someone on the right. And it was the president from the get-go had said, I bet you it's not someone, and he was right. And yet, oh no, I understand that. And that's,
I'm saying he's a white supremacist.
I understand that, and I think in those cases, there's no question, black and white, we need to call out all instances of this. But that being said, while we're on the topic, I do think that there has been a rush to judgment in a lot of other cases when it comes to, in particular, some of the anti-Semitic discussion, where people have jumped to the conclusion about denouncing people on the right and asking for this. And in that particular case, we saw that the president was right and that this rush to judgment by a lot of folks on the left was wrong, and none of them have been held to account on that. And that is something that equally needs to be called out. When people are charging something of someone that is not true, there has been nothing to go back to those individuals. Nothing on the left who came and asked for everyone on the right to denounce something that they weren't guilty of. And I think that there needs to be an equal go back in time and call out those individuals for rushing to judgment and calling out those individuals.
My second topic, and I'm done. Someone who was in the room, you like talking about this CBC meeting that happened last week, someone who was actually in the room at that meeting said that the issue of HBCUs came up, and that's a very sensitive subject right now in the black community and here at the White House. The issue of HBCUs came up, and it's Omarosa said that she would be the one heading the HBCU office at the White House, and the president did not make a response confirming or denying. Will this be the case? Is this the case?
We don't have any analysis.
So yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. Give this video a thumbs up and share it on social media. Check out our previous videos. They should be coming up on the right side of your screen. Click on them. They're interactive. They'll take you to the video you might want to watch. Give it a thumbs up and share it while you're over there. Check out the links in the description below. If you are new to our community, we encourage you to subscribe by clicking the red button below the video or the golden globe that'll be coming up on your screen. We welcome you and hope to see you guys here next time. But until then, peace.